Välkomna till Folkets Radio. Welcome to the People's Radio. The world is ruled by psychopaths and run by idiots. This is a quote from the legendary author and conspiracy researcher David Icke. He has written more than 20 books. He is an uncompromising champion of free speech. David Icke, thank you so much for being on the program.
It's a pleasure.
So I've been following your work for years, and there's a lot of interesting topics. But I would like to begin, with your recent critique of, let's say, the corruption of the alternative media and where it's going. So could you explain a little, what do you think is wrong right now with the alternative media?
Well, there was no alternative media when I started out. Started out in 1990, and it was a few disparate individuals who were just doing their own thing, really. And then I watched the alternative media start to appear and grow, which was fantastic. And a really big leap after 9/11. And it was very refreshing to see people who were opening their minds to the fact that the world was not like they were told it was. Mm-hmm. And they were starting to see that there was a force in the background that was manipulating world events, and it wasn't presidents and prime ministers and the people that we think are in power, when we're told are in power, and we're told are making the decisions. And that was all great, and it kind of expanded. And then along came COVID, and again, the people that had done the research up to that point were calling it out from the start that this wasn't what they were telling us. The whole thing was not how it was being portrayed. And then gradually, people started coming into the alternative media who had not called it out because they hadn't done the research. They didn't have a long history of it. They were suddenly experts in something that they'd been involved in for 5 minutes. And that's all right because, people see that things are not like they thought they were, and they then sort of get into this stuff. My problem has been that those people are the ones that have been massively promoted and get the big audiences because of the focus and because of the algorithmic support. And those that called it out because of all the research they'd done previously are kind of marginalized by it and are excluded from that club, if you like. And, when I see people, there's a guy in America called Brett Weinstein who's suddenly kind of being quoted on everything. Again, a guy who bought the COVID hoax and actually told an interviewer during the so-called pandemic that he wore a scarf around his neck so that he could pull it over his face every time he opened the door. And that's fair enough. I mean, you can get scammed and then you realize you've been scammed. But this is the guy that's interviewed by Tucker Carlson with a massive, massive audience on X. And a few days later is interviewed again by Carlson on what's going on the southern border, when there's people that have been researching the southern border forever and what's happening there who don't get on. And so what has happened, and I think, this is my problem. It's not that, people want to stay in that arena only, but it seems to me that there is a barricade being created, which you might label here and no further, where they go so far and then stop and won't go into people that are going much further. So the mainstream alternative media, what I call the MAM, has kind of coagulated, in effect, into right-wing American politics. So you get a so-called right-wing politician like Milei in Argentina, and he gets in, and suddenly he's a hero to the mainstream alternative media. And then Wilders gets a lot of votes in the Netherlands, and he's a hero. Trump's a hero. And it's all about the right-wing American politics. And what I've, and right-wing politics in general, what I've noticed is that, you know, as the alternative media was emerging, it had an understanding that we're dealing with one-party states, whereby it doesn't matter who you basically vote for, because the same agenda unfolds. If you've got some parties, it might unfold slower, but it still unfolds. And with other parties, it will unfold much quicker, as with the alleged Biden administration in the United States in the last few years. And, you know, what has happened, it seems to me, is that this mainstream element of the alternative media has regressed in its understanding, for whatever reason, from the fact that the real power is that operates through left and right, to taking a side between left and right. And you know, when you're focusing people on, you know, right good, left bad, with no shades of grey, first of all, it's black and white politics, and the shades of grey is always where the truth usually is. But it's also ignoring this, what I call global cult, that operates through left and right. See, in Britain at the moment, we have a Conservative Party government under the premiership of Rishi Sunak. And this agenda is unfolded. I mean, because the Conservative Party has a natural constituency that doesn't want where the world's going, it has to do it with a bit more circumspection. It has to deliver the right rhetoric, but it still unfolds. And waiting in the wings, almost certainly going to be the next prime minister in this country, is a guy called Keir Starmer of the Labour Party. And if he gets in, which is highly likely, then this agenda, which is being pushed forward incrementally as best they can get away with by the Conservative Party, is going to be on bloody steroids. Just as when the Biden administration came in, the global cult agenda unfolded so fast under Biden. But what I'm also seeing, and this is, I think, very important and significant, is that a lot of billionaires that are connected to AI and the tech arena are suddenly becoming interested in the mainstream alternative media and are promoting it. And they won't be doing that out of the goodness of their hearts in terms of benefit for humanity. There'll be a benefit for them. So, for instance, Elon Musk has been posting constantly now for weeks and weeks about the southern border of the United States and how people are just coming in without being checked. And that's fair enough. Some of us have been pointing that out for frickin' decades. But suddenly he's interested, and other people are interested, like people like Peter Thiel and stuff, who's very, very much into this high-tech arena and very, very connected to the intelligence networks and the Pentagon. And you then start to realize, if you do the research, and there's a brilliant researcher in the proper alternative media called Whitney Webb, who's pointing out that the plan is to not build a wall to stop the flow of people coming into the United States from the South, but to have a AI biometric system. Now, that just happens to be the system that this global cult wants. And so what I'm seeing is people like Bill Gates and Klaus Schwab at the World Economic Forum and their like, and these tech oligarchs and billionaires, they are pushing the same agenda. They're just pushing it in a different way. So you've got the hard sell. This is what must happen. We're going to have AI connected to the human brain and all this stuff. And then you've got the soft sell. And the soft sell goes something like this. AI connected to taking over the world is inevitable. And therefore, the way to mitigate that is to have humans connected to artificial intelligence, which is the Elon Musk spin on this and others. And it just so happens that humans connected to artificial intelligence is exactly what this global cult wants. So, but here's the thing. I'll finish with this in this answer. But this is the thing. Before Elon Musk took over Twitter X, the mainstream alternative media, and the alternative media in general, was calling him out on what he was doing in terms of Neuralink and the brain implants, in terms of the low orbit satellites firing the, quote, cloud, eventually at every inch of the earth, and autonomous vehicles, all this stuff. These are all global cult agendas. And they were calling him out on them. But once he bought Twitter X and said he stood for free speech, they've stopped calling him out on them. So, it's like there's this extraordinary cognitive dissonance that I'm seeing, whereby you're supposed to be pushing back on this AI control system, but you're more than starting to eulogize a guy whose companies are fundamental to creating that system. And something doesn't add up there big time, but it's being ignored. And it's those outside of the mainstream of the alternative, the kind of people that were the alternative before. They're the ones that are calling him out. The rest are just keeping their mouth shut.
You wrote, talking about Elon Musk, you wrote on Twitter X, I think about a month ago, addressing some of these big names like Joe Rogan and Brett Weinstein and Tucker Carlson. You said that Twitter X is becoming the digital centralization of everything: banking, buying, internet posts, all in one place to get your social credit score. And you go on to say then that Elon Musk is the front man for all of this, which is why people are being manipulated to see him as an anti-system hero. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, I do see that, because you see, first of all, he's obsessed with this letter X. So he took over Twitter, and he couldn't have taken over Twitter, by the way, unless a lot of people that have no interest in human freedom and free speech had agreed to it. And this is one of my questions. Before he took over Twitter was controlling what was said and what was seen on Twitter. It was doing it very obviously. I mean, people were saying anything even mild were banned. And then when he took over Twitter, he released what they called the Twitter files with Matt Taibbi and what have you, that confirmed with documents and emails that Twitter was controlling what people saw and heard. Well, the so-called deep state, which is just a national expression of this global cult that I talk about, therefore had everything it wanted. because it wants to control what is seen and heard. Because from that, we form our perceptions, and from our perceptions, we form our behavior. Plus, control perception, you control behavior. So they had everything they wanted. They had what they wanted with YouTube, with Google, with owns YouTube, with Facebook, and so on. So my question was, why did they sell Twitter, which they owned and controlled, to Elon Musk, who was proclaiming himself as a free speech hero? And, you know, what I'm always doing is not listening to the rhetoric, but looking at the outcomes, looking at the actions, not the words. And the outcome of that purchase of Twitter, and we don't even know who owns it ultimately, has come this free pass for Elon Musk to head up all these companies like SpaceX and Tesla and Neuralink and so on, which are pushing the agenda on, while the people that are supposed to be and were before pushing back on that are just sitting on their hands and zipping their mouths. So then I look at what he says against what he does. He, first of all, then brings in, once he's formed X, which is owned by X Holdings Corporation, and we don't know who are the shareholders in that, because he's gone to court to stop that being released publicly. And he's then brings in a CEO that is a stalwart of the World Economic Forum of Klaus Schwab, which is pushing this agenda, which he says he opposes, except that his companies are advancing it. And together they say they're going to create the Everything app, the X Everything app, where all these things you described there, banking and social media and virtual reality, all of it, are in one place. And, you know, if we want freedom, we need diversity, not centralization. I don't mean woke diversity, I mean real diversity, where there's lots of people doing the same thing. So people have choice. Once you start centralizing everything, and this is another point that I would make. What we're looking at also in this whole tech arena is a contrived competition. And like I say, let's look at the outcome rather than the words and the game and the vaudeville. So you've got this AI chatbot system with chat GPT with OpenAI, Grok with Musk and X, Gemini with Google and others. And they're kind of playing this game of being in competition, and you know, opposing each other and seeking to undermine each other, and you know, all that stuff, which what Musk has been doing with this Gemini system. But what's the outcome of all of this? The outcome is that all these different expressions of the same system take over. I mean, you know, you used to go on the internet not too long ago, and you would have access to articles immediately or videos that related to your search engine, your search words in the search engine. What you get now, almost wherever you go, what you're given as the main source of answering your question are these AI systems. So you look at what's happening in the mainstream media. More and more mainstream media articles are written by artificial intelligence. And it's taking over and taking over and taking over. And, you know, when you've got someone like Elon Musk becoming well known for saying that AI could be the end of humanity, and then saying the only way to stop that is for humans to be connected to artificial intelligence, you again look at the same outcome. People like Schwab and the World Economic Forum want openly AI connected to the human brain. And Elon Musk says, well, it's dangerous, but the only way of overcoming AI is to connect with it. And the outcome, again, of both is humans connected to AI. And this is what I'm talking about with the hard sell and the soft sell. Because the situation has been that the COVID hoax brought out a lot of people who started to see that there's something going on here and it ain't good. The coordination globally of all that, for a start. And they don't want it. And so what you have is a good section of the people that are fine with it or are not disagreeing with it and think it's great. And then you've got these, what I call pushbackers. In America, a lot of them are Trump supporters, and others around the world. And they're a problem. They're a problem because they don't want what you want. They're going to push back on it. And so they've been given a hero, and that pushback has, I say, dramatically been diluted. And if you then take that area of the alternative media that is diluting that opposition, and you make that the center of attention and marginal to saying something different, then you're starting to create a pincer movement on the pushbackers. And it's interesting what I said a few minutes ago about this AI biometric border system. Trump has made speeches saying that what we need to stop the hordes arriving into America from the southern border is a AI biometric system that will stop it. Now, that's exactly what the World Economic Forum wants, and it's exactly what these billionaire technocrats want. So, you know, and again, with Trump, you had 74 million people, something like that, voted for him at the election he won. In fact, about the same the last time as well. And the great vast majority of them could see that the COVID fake vaccine, it's not even a vaccine by previous criteria, was actually not good. But even up to the last few days, Trump is still claiming credit for rolling it out and supporting it. And not a word about the tremendous number of people who have died and had their health destroyed after having that fake vaccine. So if you look at the Trump administration, there was lots of that. All that, oh, we're going to shut the southern border, we're going to build a wall. It never happened. And, oh, we're pushing back, we're going to drain the swamp. Well, the swamp got its vaccine. And, oh, we're going to stand up for freedom of speech. Well, at the end of your presidency, Mr. Trump, you had the opportunity to pardon Julian Assange and Edward Snowden. And instead, you pardoned a group of crooks, not least connected to your son-in-law. So I'm saying to people is, look, words are easy. Look at the actions, look at the outcomes. And And I don't think it's good, what's happening.
Just before we move on, is really Twitter X this freedom of speech platform? I mean, I think you said at one point that you have more followers now, but less people see your posts.
Yeah.
So some people say there is freedom of speech, but not freedom of reach. So this is just a more sophisticated way of doing censorship, really.
That's a very, very good point. You see, this is the thing. When this Linda Yaccarino, this CEO, who's very, very heavily connected to the World Economic Forum, and you're Elon Musk, you are presenting yourself as a free speech hero. Mm. You're presenting yourself as pushing back on the World Economic Forum global cult, actually, as his front for it, agenda for the world. And then you appoint a CEO who's heavily connected to the World Economic Forum. And then she came out with, as you absolutely rightly say, this thing about freedom of speech, but not freedom of reach. And if something, this is her words again, is something is lawful but awful, then you'll find it very difficult to find it on X. So this is a different kind of censorship, whereby, for instance, the mainstream alternative media that is pushing the agenda they want, they'll get algorithmically boosted, and the alternative media that's saying the wrong thing, that gets algorithmically suppressed. I mean, I know people who are saying some really, really good things, and their reach on a post is in the hundreds often. Whereas others that are saying next to nothing are getting millions. And, it's not that you're saying all these people are bad people. I think some of them absolutely know what they're doing. And I think they've been put in there on purpose, but they are the few, not the many. But if someone has a mentality and a perception of the way things are, and limited knowledge due to limited research, because they've only just come in the arena, then you don't have to have them as your knowing agents. You just algorithmically boost them. You just promote them. And they'll then do, thinking they're doing the right thing, what you want. And they'll push that limited here and no further view of what's happening, which is what you want. So, it's not black and white. So, these people are agents and they've been brought in. If you've got the right mentality and the lack of research knowledge, then you get boosted. If you've been doing it for years and years and years, and you can see beyond that, you get suppressed. Not just me, loads of people. I mean, the followers I have on Twitter now are past 602,000, and they're going up like 1,000 a week. You wouldn't know that with those that see individual posts. You wouldn't know that.
Before we move on, from the topic of freedom of speech, without spending too much time on it, I just wanted to ask you: is it actually true that you have been banned from 26 European countries entering for being a threat to public order?
Yeah, I think it's 29 now, mate.
29.
I think Romania and Bulgaria have come into the Schengen system in this month, I think, so what I understand. So it's 29, and I'm banned from Australia as well. And, this is another aspect. When one of these MAM, as I call them, heroes, stars, has a video taken down or something, it's a big deal. Can they do that? Oh, look, he's being censored. Oh, he must be what he's saying. And I'm banned from 29 European countries. And when it was 27 at the time, this mainstream alternative media never said a bloody word. Not a titter from any of them. And why? And why am I banned from all these countries and these MAM stars are not? What is it I'm saying that they're not saying? And it's ridiculous. You know, I'm banned from all these countries in Europe. You're banned from Australia. And I would be banned from a lot of other countries if I try to get into them. And I'm basically isolated in my own country at the moment. The ban's supposed to run out in the fall, autumn of this year. But in the court hearings, because where it came from was the Netherlands, which is an unbelievably controlled country. The way the Schengen system works, and this is an interesting kind of example with things like the European Union and groupings. See, if you want to control globally eventually, in fact globally now, but officially globally, you don't want a situation where you've got to go into every bloody country and get what you want. Too long, too much diversity, you're not going to achieve it. So you group people together. You group people together so that one central point can dictate what they all do. So the Schengen system is that if one country bans someone, they all ban them. This is classic in the way the cult works. And so what happened is some really decent people in the Netherlands who've been fighting the system in the courts all the way through COVID. And they challenged curfews and lockdowns and stuff, and won in court on one occasion, miraculously. And the next day, the government changed the law to give them permission to do it. So they're really good and vociferous people who truly care about freedom. And they've been going through the courts challenging my ban. And a government lawyer who put absolutely no evidence forward whatsoever to justify it, said that if I haven't changed my views by the time the ban runs out in the autumn, then it will be continued. So I could be banned. I could be banned indefinitely because I'm not going to change my bloody views, am I? And you know, this is the fascism that's going on, and the MAMs are ignoring it.